streaming. And it looks as though we are live.
Oh, wow. That is interesting, but very blurry.
Very blurry.
Yeah.
Right now, the stream health, it says, is on yellow. And I want to click on this little question mark, see what we can do about that. Viewers may be experiencing minor issues.
Trippy.
Trippy, but is it working?
I guess.
You guess.
We can try it for this time. You're just really... Yeah, are you, like, in front of your green screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what's going on here. Hey, guys. So, yes, I am now trying out a different format here with this Storytime with Bobsheaux. Trying to add a little bit of visual interest to the proceedings. Hello, Daniel Riza. Hello, Verdant. Good to know that you see me. Always a plus.
I'm not doing the Master Yoda voice. I don't do voices.
But, baby, they want you to.
No. They think they want me to, but I'm not good at it, so why would they want me to?
Because it's funny.
It's funny for me to be bad at something?
It could be.
Not for me.
Oh.
I don't do that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird seeing my slightly lower res.
I wouldn't do Gilbert Godfrey with someone else's parts.
Speaking of Gilbert Godfrey with someone else's parts, I'm freezing my nuts off!
Okay, then you're not doing it during the stream.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
The people demand it.
The people can go suck an egg.
Oh, that's not nice. It's a little blurry. Yes, I was just about to point out, it's kind of weird seeing my slightly lower res webcam here being juxtaposed against this very HD background that I'm working with here. It's like everything else is perfectly in focus except for me. How does that work? I don't know, but there you go. But I am seeing it on my little tiny screen here as I'm working, and it's looking fine on my end.
Yes, VR, I have survived the plague that befell me. I am 100% better. Thank you for asking.
Yes, last week was really hard, wasn't it, baby?
Woo! My goodness.
I'm sorry. But yes, as we can hear, and as I can see, but you can't, she is alive and well. And she is glorious and gorgeous and wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you.
I try. So, let's see. Who do we have in channel here? We've got Raven Fox Audio. Weird person. Who's that? I don't know. You got Anthony Watson. Hello, Anthony. And we are doing well. Thank you for asking. Verdant Range asks, hello, by the way. Does Guru Larry count as a rule violation? It's not a rule violation.
I already answered that.
Oh, did you?
Yep. If he's currently associated with Channel Awesome, he counts.
I am ignorant.
I didn't know who he was either.
Yeah.
But he said that he's just there to make fun of them. No, if he's associated with them, he's supporting them. Therefore, nope.
Hello, E. Garcia. Nice to see you. Glee Club. Sean Mercy. Tom Jackson. Yo-Yo.
Yes, Matt St. Marie. He does quite a few actors from the 40s and 50s.
Yes, throw a name at me and let's see what we got.
You can't do the voices while we're talking about it. You have to save it for the stories.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, when we get to that point, throw me a name and we'll see what we can do. And now we gotta save them? Jeez.
How hard would it be for you to grab Wolfabob? There seems to be some call for him.
There's always call for Wolfabob. It would be tricky, but hardly insurmountable. Let me see. Are you having...
Oh, do you have your water?
I do have my water.
Are you prepared?
I am prepared.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that this is all working beforehand, so I was prepared to not have to leave my room at all. Because right now I am locked off. I'm trapped in my weird little universe here. Ah! Are you having
Vincent
trouble?
Price, has done many times. He loves Vincent Price. No previews. No.
If you're seeing questions that I'm not, does that mean that you're not having any trouble with the chat?
I don't seem to be, but then I'm on my desktop and you're on your phone, so there may be a delay. And I'm also not on Wi-Fi. I'm direct wired to the internet.
The last message that I got was at 12:02, so yes, I'm experiencing quite a bit of lag with the chat here. So you are going to have to be my eyes and ears for the audience here. But there was call for Wolfabob. Let me see what I can find with him. Where did he go? Wolfabob! Where are you, buddy? Let's see. We don't want him. Well, we do want him, but that's for later days.
Your jacket looks brown. It is such bad resolution.
Yeah, it's so weird. And when I did my Joker review, my green hair looked brown too.
Thank you for giving us a lovely shot of your ass. I personally am grateful.
Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. Wolfabob, where are you, boy?
Raven doesn't do voices. She doesn't do voices.
But she could.
But she can't.
I need to do a little digging if I'm going to get to Wolfabob, although I do need to show off this little guy while I've got him here. This was something that Raven had to get for me while we were visiting each other this last August. This little tiny wolf guy. Isn't he adorable? Just look at how sweet and adorable he is. And then... I gotta eat good.
He just came into frame. That's how much lag I've got going on.
Oh boy. I'll put that little guy down and continue my search for Wolfabob, who is here somewhere in this ungodly little hovel in which I live.
Just think about what he could accomplish if he had a dedicated room in his home.
I know,
instead
right?
of living in a little postage stamp bedroom. A dedicated room in his home that he could have just for studio stuff.
Hint, hint!
Looks like you're flying. Looked like you were flying there for a minute.
No, now it looks like I'm flying. Da, 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 da. Oh, wait, here we go. Fun with green screen.
And you can't do this with your regular cameras?
I cannot. I have no way of hooking it up to my computer to use as a webcam. So, yes, for the time being, I am stuck with this until I can get a higher res webcam. Because, yeah, this is a really old camera. Remember, I've had this since my dear sweet grandmother died and she never used it. It was still in the original packaging when I got it. Yeah, this was like 2010, 11. Time for an upgrade, methinks, But we have Wolfabob. Ching!
He will come in at a dramatically appropriate moment, as they say on LA by Night.
Yes, I'm afraid to... Or I'm sorry that I have to spoil the magic for some of you, but in the reviews where I become Wolfabob, I don't actually transform. I have to use a little wolf puppet to do it, so you'll have to excuse me being myself while Wolfabob does his thing.
That's right, he only turns into dog show.
Now my audience is so confused. I don't know what it is. But yes, we have Wolfabob. Woohoo!
Okay, what is wet plate exposure?
No idea.
Okay.
Wet plate exposure. Sounds inappropriate.
I know.
Yeah, you couldn't see it, but that's exactly the face that Raven made. Yeah. Too late, I'm already confused.
I gotta say, who is Terry Jones?
Terry Jones is someone of whom you would not appreciate very much. He was one of the Pythons.
Ah. Well, I'm sorry he passed away, but
Well,
no, I have no
yes.
idea who he is. Not my kind of comedy.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, regardless.
Yes, very, very funny man. I would have preferred it to do a more proper tribute to him, but I'm pretty sure that you guys don't want to see me playing the pipe organ naked. And you're so confused already, baby. What? I don't know. Yes, you and Monty Python is like me in anime. What is this? And my chat is working again, so hooray. Hello, Ian Sweeney. I'm doing well. How are you?
We have 40 currently in chat.
Lovely.
Or currently watching, anyway.
That's right, Matt. Thank you for reminding me of that. Wait, did he direct Labyrinth, or did he only write it? I remember him being involved heavily at some point in the creative process, but I can't remember if it was writing or directing. And
Anthony, if he's naked, he's not going to be playing, and I'm there, he's not going to be playing a pipe organ.
And now for something completely different. It's funny. You remember that little bobcat cub from Zootopia at the play? Who was doing all the music?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was that a little point where he's playing the keyboard. That was supposed to be a Terry Jones tribute. Just a little nod to his bit.
Oh, neat.
Mm-hmm. So, we have 40 people in channel.
Keanu Reeves is too good for this world.
Man, my webcam is so weird. What
you look like an oil painting in motion. It's with the trippy background behind you and you being so blurry.
And the visuals are perfectly framed around me. It's like, whoa. I was just about to point out how it's weird that my blue water bottle here is looking purple. But yeah, now that you're mentioning, it's like all this weird shit around me.
Claire has a question.
What is that?
Bob, have you considered getting Raven to have a puppet Raven? You know, how you have Dog Show or Wolfabob?
Stay tuned. That's all I'm saying. Keep watching. We'll see.
Caleb says you look like you're literally in the 70s. Yes, it's a bad acid trip.
Oh. And speaking of acid trips, shall we begin our first book?
No, we need to, I don't have enough voices.
Oh no.
I am ready for voice suggestions, guys. Start throwing them at me. We got 47 people watching.
Nice. What was the record last time?
Builder, can we fix it? Bob the Builder. Yes, we can. I have kids. They were little during Bob the Builder's heyday.
I was going to say, I don't have kids, so I don't know who Bob the Builder is. Well, I know vaguely who he is. I never actually watched it. Don't know what he sounds like, so sorry, you can't do that one.
Already got a request for Gilbert Godawful voice.
I love that.
Cruel. And we're in. Gomez Adams is once again censored.
Really, YouTube? Really? Hey, watch this, YouTube. Gomez! Oh my god, I'm so problematic!
The Adams part.
The Adams?
Yes. We tested it, remember? Wednesday Adams was also censored.
Adams. Oh no. Oh no. Try something for me. Type the word adage with 2 D's. See what happens.
I think that's spelled correctly. I'm not down there. Okay, no, well, as the admin, it might not censor me. And, okay, hang on. ADDAMS VR typed it, and it wasn't censored. Claire typed Adams and Adage, and both were censored. Soda Pop typed Adage, and it wasn't censored. YouTube, you're on crack. In the world.
I just wanted to test out something. Is it the double D that YouTube is taking offense to?
Sometimes, maybe. Who in the world knows?
I don't know.
I don't think. Do you do a Bob Marley?
No.
I didn't think so. That just sounds like potentially racist sounding.
Yes, because we have such a problem with doing potentially racist voices on these streams. Say, baby, shall we do another Jar Jar?
Jar Jar is not racist.
Yes, of course he isn't.
Shut up.
Moi, moi. Lord, give me strength. There's nothing out there. That's right. Green screen's a little slacking after that. Let's get that all fixed up. There we go. Ta-da! Just need to...
I'm ready. You have to talk.
This is me talking! Yay! Oh, God. If this background is too trippy for you guys, next time I gotta do something with a great urban feel!
What's that mean? What does that mean?
Cool Cat reference. It's looking like that green screen video bit that he did.
Ah.
I just don't remember that because that movie sufficiently turned your brain to pudding.
I blocked it out.
Someone's suppressing.
Do you know who Angel Dust is?
If I remember correctly, I believe that is the name of a character from the very, very awesome Has Been Hotel, which I have only seen once. And the voice of which...
I can't believe you watched it without me.
Hmm?
I can't believe you watched it without me.
It's supposed to be a comedy. I don't know how you would react to that. Sorry. We do need to watch it again, though. Or I'm down, at least. Because, yeah, I don't think this is the first time...
Has there been more than one episode?
I think there's only a pilot so far. But I don't think this is the first time that I've been suggested an Angel Dust, so yes, if anything, we should watch it again so I can familiarize myself with the voice.
Oh, the chat is jumping all over the place for me. I am going to miss voices. I apologize.
I have not seen Cats, Claire, but it is definitely on my list.
Don't know if we're going to review it.
Don't know if we're going to review it. No, just to watch because it is certainly a curiosity, which is Cats, which is funny.
The FTC and COPA have nothing to do with the censored chat. It would do stuff like that long before that started being an issue. And what we think about COPA,
Yeah, two P's.
Was asked earlier. We think that we're just going to do what we do and not obsess about it.
We will survive. As I have pointed out, my channel is not for kids. There are kids who are watching me. Good for you. Your parents have a lot of faith in your intelligence, which is great. That's what parents are supposed to do. But technically, this is not a kid's channel. So, take that with whatever grain of salt you like. Although, my child audience has led to some very fun material. Right, Puppy Star Christmas? Son of a bitch! 6-year-old son of a bite-sized Yorkie!
That was too cute. Little Raven.
Oh, God.
She is too precious now.
Mm-hmm. She is.
Well, Drummer Boy, I'm glad you're able to join us today, even though you don't have much time because of work.
Yes.
We're happy that we can entertain you.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we begin? I have enough voices definitely to get started.
I think we shall. And let me get a little mood music to play for us here. There we go. Because today we're going to read from The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I gotta show this off. Because we're on a green screen here, and we have these lovely green gilded pages here. Whoa. I can see right through it. Hey, check it out. I look like Devo.
Oh my god.
Right? So, let us begin with Chapter 1, The Cyclone. Starting with what voice?
Vincent Price.
Dorothy lived in the midst of the great Kansas prairies with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was the farmer's wife. The house was small, for the lumber to build it had to be carried by wagon many miles. There were 4 walls, a floor, and a roof, which made one room. And this room contained a rusty-looking cooking stove, a cupboard for the dishes, a table, 3 or 4 chairs, and the beds. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em had a big bed in one corner, and Dorothy a little bed in another corner. There was no garret at all, and no cellar, except a small hole dug in the ground, called a cyclone cellar, where the family would go in case of one of those great whirlwinds arose, mighty enough to crush any building in its path. It was reached by a trap door in the middle of the floor, from which a ladder led down into the small dark hole. Just like the dark hole in all of our souls.
Don't do too much in one voice.
I'm just on the first paragraph here, and we're done.
We've discussed that you can't do a whole paragraph.
Moving on.
You cannot. What am I going to do with you? You don't listen.
I'm only doing my best here. Leave me alone.
Okay, bye.
Hey, don't leave me that alone. Come on.
Oh, the next voice is Bela Lugosi.
When Dorothy stood in the doorway and looked around, she could see nothing but the great grey prairie on every side. Not a tree nor a house broke the broad sweep of flat country that reached the edge of the sky in all directions. The sun had baked the plowed lands into a grey mass, with little cracks running through it. Even the grass was not green, for the sun had burned the tops of the long blades until they were the same grey color to be seen everywhere. Once the house had been painted, but the sun blistered the paint and the rains washed it away, and now the house was as dull, as grey as everything else. So really, MGM had the right frame of mind when they decided to film everything in black and white and then in color. Really driving the point home with that one. Next.
The next is a two or three parter, depending on if you know them all.
Okay.
The first part is Phalus himself.
And the second?
Phalus as old man.
No, don't know that one.
Phalus as Bat Hero.
No, sorry, that's...
Okay, just Phalus then.
Just Phalus. Just gotta adjust this real quick. There we go. Got some weird shadow issues going on here. There we are. Perfect.
And when Aunt Em came here to live, she was a young, pretty wife. The sun and the wind had changed her, too. They had taken the sparkle from her eyes and left them a sober gray. They had taken the red from her cheeks and lips, and they were gray also. She was thin and gaunt and never smiled now.
I'm sorry, Phalus. Next. Oh.
Early request for Gilbert Gottfried. Quit enjoying it.
And it's funny. What am I supposed to do?
Not enjoy it so much.
When Dorothy, who wasn't... When Dorothy, who was an orphan, first came to her, Aunt Em had been so startled by the child's laughter that she would scream and press her hand upon her heart whenever Dorothy's merry voice reached her ears. This is my merry voice! And she still looked at the little girl with wonder that she could find anything to laugh at. Oh dear. Does Dorothy have the same laughing condition that Arthur Fleck has?
Give me some Antonio Banderas, please. That's my request.
Your palate cleanser.
Please.
Uncle Henry never laughed. He worked hard from morning till night, and did not know what joy was. He was grey also, from his long beard to his rough boots, and he looked stern and solemn, and rarely spoke. It was Toto that made Dorothy laugh, and saved her from growing as grey as her other surroundings. Toto was not grey. He was a little black dog with long silky hair and small black eyes that twinkled merrily on either side of his funny wee nose. Toto played all day long, and Dorothy played with him and loved him dearly. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Just took away that wave of nausea.
Book? No book.
Next
Book?
is...
No book.
Are you ready for the next one?
Yes, I'm just playing with the visuals here. Next.
That is so weird.
It is.
Kermit.
Today, however, they were not playing. Uncle Henry sat upon the doorstep and looked anxiously into the sky, which was even grayer than usual. Dorothy stood in the door with Toto in her arms and looked at the sky too. Aunt Em was washing the dishes. From the far north they heard a low wail of the wind, and Uncle Henry and Dorothy could see where the long grass bowed in the waves before the coming storm. There now came a sharp whistling in the air from the south, and as they turned their eyes that way, they saw ripples in the grass coming from that direction also. Oh no! Next.
Gomez Adams.
Suddenly, Uncle Henry stood up. "There's a cyclone coming, Em," he called to his wife, Morticia. "I'll go look after the stock." Then he ran toward the shed where the cows and horses were kept. Aunt Em dropped her work and came to the door. One glance told her of the danger close at hand. "Quick, Dorothy!" she screamed. "Run for the cellar!" Next.
Ben Stein.
Toto jumped out of Dorothy's arms and hid under the bed, and the girls started to get him. Aunt Em, badly frightened, threw open the trap door in the floor and climbed down the ladder into the small dark hole. Dorothy caught Toto at last and started to follow her aunt. When she was halfway across the room, there came a great shriek from the wind, and the house shook so hard that she lost her footing and sat down suddenly upon the floor. A strange thing then happened. Wow. Next.
Life of Brian, Brian's mother?
Little Terry Jones voice. Nicely played, audience.
The house whirled around 2 or 3 times and rose slowly through the air. Dorothy felt as if she were going up in a balloon. The north and south winds met where the house stood, and it made the exact center of the cyclone. In the middle of a cyclone, the air is generally still, but the great pressure of the wind on every side of the house raised it up higher and higher, until it was at the very top of the cyclone. And there it remained until she was carried miles and miles away, as easily as you could carry a feather. He's a very naughty boy.
Mickey Mouse.
It was very dark, and the wind howled horribly around her. But Dorothy found that she was riding quite easily. After the first few whirls around, and one other time when the house tipped badly, she felt as if she were being rocked gently, like a baby in a cradle. Toto did not like it. He ran about the room, now here, now there, barking loudly. But Dorothy sat quite still on the floor and waited to see what would happen.
Next.
S.F. Debris Janeway?
I don't know S.F. Debris Janeway, but I suppose I could do a compromise and give you Mike Nelson's Janeway?
Go for it.
Once Toto got too near the open trap door and fell in, and at first little girl thought that she had lost him. But soon she saw one of his ears sticking up through the hole, for the strong pressure of the wind was keeping him up so he could not fall. She crept through the hole, caught Toto by the ear, and dragged him into the room again, afterward closing the trapdoor so that no more accidents could happen. Yes, because sometimes accidents can get things a little rough. That's right.
Rolling, rolling, rolling down the river.
Thank you.
You are being applauded for your Terry Jones impression, by the way.
Glad you will approve.
Nelson from The Simpsons?
Pass. Actually, I suck.
Herbert the Pervert.
Hour after hour passed away, and slowly Dorothy got over her fright. But she felt quite lonely, and the wind shrieked so loudly all about her that she nearly became deaf. At first she had wondered if she would be dashed into pieces when the house fell again, but as the hours passed and nothing terrible happened, she stopped worrying and resolved to wait calmly and see what the future would bring. At last she crawled over to the swaying floor of her bed, across the swaying floor to her bed, and lay down upon it, and Toto followed and lay down beside her.
Ew. Made it really creepy.
Didn't I? I'm sorry. I failed to notice that there's only one sentence left in this chapter. I'll go ahead and wrap it up with Herbert.
In spite of the swaying of the house and the wailing of the wind, Dorothy soon closed her eyes and fell fast asleep. Sleep tight, little lady. And then she leaned over to Toto and said, "That new paper boy got undone and broke my sternum."
Oh, God.
Next.
Prince John?
Oh, God. Yes, Prince John is taking us into Chapter 2, The Council with the Munchkins. She was awakened by a shock, so sudden and severe that if Dorothy had not been lying on the soft bed, she might have been hurt. As it was, the jar made her catch her breath and wonder what had happened. And Toto put his cold little nose into her face and whined dismally. Dorothy had sat up and noticed that the house was not moving, nor was it dark, for the bright sunshine came in at the window, flooding the little room. She sprang from her bed with Toto, at her heels and ran to the open door, where she laughed, "Aha! Aha!" Next.
Unit 12 robot from your Pinocchio 3000 review.
Wow, that's a bit of a stretch.
Reaching back, that's nothing. Reach deep, dear.
The little girl gave a cry of amazement and looked about her, her eyes growing bigger and bigger as at the wonderful sight she saw. It's so wonderful. The cyclone had set the house down very gently for a cyclone in the midst of a country of marvelous beauty. There were lovely patches of green sward all about, with stately trees bearing rich and luscious fruits. Banks of gorgeous flowers were on every hand, and birds with rare and brilliant plumage sang and fluttered in the trees and bushes. A little way off was a small brook, rushing and sparkling along between the green banks, and murmuring in a voice very grateful to a little girl who had lived so long on the dry gray prairies. Isn't it just so divine? Next.
Cool cat.
Well, she stood looking eagerly at the strange and beautiful sights, and I love strange and beautiful sights. She noticed coming towards her a group of the queerest people she had ever seen. They were not as big as the grown folks she had always been used to, but neither were they very small. In fact, they seemed about as tall as Dorothy, who was a well-grown child for her age, although they were, so far as looks go, many years older. So they're not babies? That's a shame, because I love babies! So they're not exactly little people, as portrayed in the MGM film, but they're more like a race of Danny DeVitos. Interesting.
What is Spawn?
Spawn is a superhero from Image Comics, whose voice I do not know.
Okay.
So, sorry. Skipping.
Alistair the Radio Demon?
Again, Has Been Hotel.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Not ringing any bells
off
off the top of my head. Sorry.
A lot of names have been thrown out since I wrote that down.
Maybe next time. Maybe next time when I watch it again and I become more familiar with the characters' names. Or voices.
Charlie Brown's teacher.
I'm sorry. I gotta get this out there while it's still in the front of my mind here. I don't remember the voices from Has Been Hotel, except for one. And you're gonna laugh because the main chick who wants to try to redeem the souls of hell with her rehabilitation thing, she sounds strikingly like... Is it Pinkie Pie? I think she sounds like...
Oh boy.
Because of course I would know what she sounds like in my
Of course you would.
in my total non-broniness. Sorry, what was the next name? Or voice?
Next name, Charlie Brown's teacher.
Charlie Brown's teacher, that's right.
There were men and one woman, and all were warmly dressed. They wore round hats and rode to a small point right above their heads, with little balls around the brim that twinkled sweetly as they moved.
I
Okay, I'm
take
done with
issue with this.
What?
There were too many discernible words in that.
Well, I gotta give something like I'm reading.
I love Charlie Brown's teacher.
And on that note, no, we're not gonna do Scoob. Oh my god, we saw the trailer for Scoob.
No, we need to put out that little exchange between the two of us. We need to review the trailer.
Fair enough.
Say nothing more. We have opinions.
Oh yes, we do. Very, very funny opinions. Next.
Mr. Rogers.
The hats of the men were blue, The little woman's her hat was white, and she wore a white gown that hung in plaits from her shoulders. Over it were sprinkled little stars that glistened in the sun like diamonds. The men were dressed in blue, of the same shade as their hats, and wore their well-polished boots with a deep roll of blue at the tops. The men, Dorothy thought, were about as old as Uncle Henry, for 2 of them had beards. But the little woman was doubtless much older. Her face was covered with wrinkles, and her hair was nearly white, and she walked rather stiffly. And she had a beard, too. Next.
Jafar.
When these people drew near the house where Dorothy was standing in the doorway, they paused and whispered among themselves, as if afraid to come farther. But the little old woman walked up to Dorothy, made a low bow, and said in a sweet voice, "You are welcome, most noble sorceress, to the land of the Munchkins. We are so grateful to you for having killed the Wicked Witch of the East, and for setting our people free from bondage. This is my sweet voice."
Next.
Scar.
Dorothy listened to this speech with wonder. What could the little woman possibly mean by calling her a sorceress, and saying she had killed the Wicked Witch of the East? Dorothy was an innocent, harmless little girl who had been carried by a cyclone many miles from home, and she had never killed anything in all her life. But the little woman evidently expected her to answer, so Dorothy said, with hesitation, "You are very kind, but there must be some mistake. I have not killed anything. Certainly not my brother, wink wink."
I love him. Love me some Jeremy Irons. Okay, here we go.
You know about that?
Warner?
Simba, everybody knows about that.
Who?
Dot Warner?
Pass.
Walter Matthau?
Give him a whirl.
You said you did the older actors.
Where was I? Nice, there it is. "Your house did anyway," replied the little old woman with a laugh. "And that is the same thing, see?" she continued, pointing to the corner of the house. There are her 2 shoes still sticking out from under a block of wood." Dorothy looked and gave a little cry of fright. There indeed, just under the corner of the great beam the house rested on, 2 feet were sticking out, shod in silver shoes with pointed toes. Pointed toes. Oh my god, the Muppets Wizard of Oz was correct. They were Manolos!
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I have no opinion.
Okay,
good.
so I may have gone into a little bit of a rant there.
Oh, come on, that was perfect. Next voice.
I have seen this suggested before. I don't know who it is or what show it comes from. Biggest Dickus? Is that a thing, or is someone just trolling me?
No, it's it is a bit of a troll. It's a joke from Monty Python's Life of Brian. It's been a while since I saw that movie. I can't recall if he's supposed to be an actual character with a voice to emulate here. I'm pretty sure it's just a name. Kind of trolling you here. But it is indeed a thing.
Does it have a voice?
I don't think it has a voice. But instead, I will do this... the character who brings it up, whose name escapes me. "Oh dear," cried Dorothy, clasping her hands together in dismay. "The house must have fallen on her. Whatever shall we do?" "There is nothing to be done," said the little woman calmly. "But who is she?" asked Dorothy. "She was the Wicked Witch of the East, as I said," answered the little woman. She has held all the Munchkins in bondage for many years, making them slave for her day and night. And now they are all free, and are grateful to you for the favor.
Wow.
And on that note, Willie Swadwick. Next.
General Grievous.
Oh, it's so funny. Sorry, got a break for a story time within the story time here. The other night, I visited my parents for dinner, and they recently got Disney Plus and had been on a bit of a Star Wars binge lately. And when I was there, they were making their way through Episode 2. When they just began Episode 3, I had to tell the story of how often General Grievous is brought up in these live streams here. And at the same time, I'm laughing at how Raven has no idea who this character is because she's not a Star Wars fan. So,
I tell them how I'm
seen
doing
the
this.
movies. I've seen the movies.
do you know who General Grievous is?
He's a bad guy, right?
Which you wouldn't have known if his name didn't give it away.
That may have helped a bit.
But yes, I
demonstrated my Grievous voice for them, and had to laugh at Raven for not knowing who this is and how she just looks so confused when I do it. It's just hilarious.
Okay, I will get to that in a moment after I take a little drink here, because that's kind of a...
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I shall have some.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tax on the throat there. Pardon me a moment. As I say, my spot with the lovely green ribbon there. Get it? Ah.
That looks like you're swimming in a sea of amoebas. At least for me.
Okay, back to it. Continuing with General Grievous. There you go.
Who are the Munchkins? Inquired Dorothy. They are the people who live in this land of the East, where the Wicked Witch ruled. Are you a Munchkin? Asked Dorothy. No, but I am their friend, although I live in the land of the North. When they saw the Witch of the East was dead, the Munchkins sent a swift messenger to me, and I came at once. I am the Witch of the North.
Be a really different movie if that was Glinda.
Really?
All you have to do is follow the yellow brick road.
Why are you yelling at me?
I am not yelling, I am speaking very softly to you.
Oh my goodness.
Next.
Next is... the Swedish Chef.
Oh, the gracious, cried Dorothy. Oh, the witchy. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a good witch, and the people, they love me. Oh, the naughty poor for all the wicked witches who are here. Well, I would just shoot the people free to myself here. Bork, bork, bork.
Next.
Invader Zim.
But I thought all witches were wicked, said the girl, who was half frightened at facing a real witch. Oh no, that is a great mistake. There are only 4 witches in all of the land of Oz. And 2 of them, those who live in the north and the south, are good witches. I know this is true, for I am one of them myself. I cannot be mistaken. Those who dwelt in the east and the west were indeed the wicked witches. But now that you have killed one of them, there is but one wicked witch in all the land of Oz, the one who lives in the west. Zim's a really odd cookie.
Truly.
Next.
Wrote that one twice. Galvatron.
But, said Dorothy after a moment's thought, Aunt Em has told me that the witches were all dead, years and years ago. Who is Aunt Em? Inquired the little old woman. Galvatron is a little old woman. Love it. She is my aunt who lives in Kansas, where I come from. The Witch of the North seemed to think for a time, with her head bowed and her eyes upon the ground. Then she looked up and said, I do not know where Kansas is, for I have never heard of that country mentioned before. But tell me, is it a civilized country? Next.
Yoda.
Oh, yes, Dorothy replied. Then accounts for it that does. In the civilized country where I believe there are no witches left, nor wizards, nor sorcerers, nor magicians. But see you, the land of Oz has never been civilized, for cut off from the rest of the world we are. Therefore, we still have wizards and witches and Jedis among us.
Leon Smith, you're spamming.
Yes, let's not do that, please.
Yes.
Next
I do have Sonic written down, and we will get to it, but asking over and over again doesn't make us get there any faster.
It does not. Next.
Sam Neill.
Pass.
Cleveland Brown.
Who are the wizards? Asked Dorothy. Oz himself is the great wizard, answered the witch, sinking her voice to a whisper. He is more powerful than all the rest of us together. He lives in the city of emeralds. Dorothy was going to ask another question, but just then the Munchkins, who had been standing silently by, gave a loud shout and pointed to the corner of the house where the Wicked Witch had been lying. They pointed and said, "Oh, that's nasty." Next.
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson in The Wizard of Oz. Love it.
I'd watch.
We're off to see the wizard.
Mm.
What is it? Asked the little old woman, and looked and began to laugh. The feet of the dead witch had disappeared entirely, and nothing was left but the silver shoes. She was so old, explained the Witch of the North, that she dried up quickly in the sun. That is the end of her, but the silver shoes are yours, and you shall have them to wear. She pointed down and picked up the shoes, and after shaking the dust out of them, handed them to Dorothy. The Witch of the East was proud of those silver shoes, she said with one of the Munchkins, and there is some charm connected with them. But what it is, we never knew. How convenient.
We need to add Liam Neeson to the voices that I like.
Glad it's working.
You ready for the next one?
Yes.
Terry McGinnis's Batman?
Pass.
Mojo Jojo?
Pass. Don't know that one.
Beaker.
Seriously, next. Here's my little Beaker moment for the day. Thank you.
Talos?
Pass.
Okay, we're going through the Jokers now. Romero.
Dorothy carried the shoes into the house and placed them on the table. Then she came out again to the Munchkins and said, I'm anxious to get back to my aunt and uncle, for I'm sure they'll worry about me. Can you help me find my way?
Nicholson.
The Munchkins and the witch first looked at one another, and then at Dorothy, and then shook their heads. At the east, not far from here, said one, there is a great desert, and none could live across it. It is the same at the south, said another, for I have been there, and I have seen it. The south is the country of the Quadlings. Next.
Hamill.
I am told, said the third man, that it is the same at the west, and that country where the Winkies live is ruled by the Witch of the West, who would make you her slave if you passed her way.
Love me some Mark Hamill.
Next.
Ledger.
The north is my home, said the old lady, and at its edge is the same great desert that surrounds this land of Oz. I'm afraid, my dear, you'll have to live with us. Next.
Richardson?
Dorothy began to sob at this, for she felt lonely among all these strange people. Her tears seemed to grieve the kind-hearted Munchkins, for they immediately took out of their handkerchiefs and began to weep also. As for the little old woman, she took off her cap and balanced the point at the end of her nose, while she counted 1, 2, 3 in a solemn voice. At once the cap changed to a slate, on which was written in big white chalk marks, "Let Dorothy go to the City of Emeralds."
Monahan. You're way ahead of me there, Mr. Critical.
The little old woman took the slate from her nose, and having read the words on it, asked, "Is your name Dorothy, my dear?" "Yes," answered the child, looking up and drying her tears. "Then you must go to the City of Emeralds. Perhaps Oz will help you." "Where's the city?" asked Dorothy. "It's exactly in the center of the country, and is ruled by Oz, the great wizard I told you of." "Is he a good man?" inquired the girl anxiously. "He is a good wizard. Whether he is a man or not, I cannot tell, for I have never seen him."
Can you do Lego Joker?
Pass.
Phoenix. This time I'm on to you. I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Last time we did a stream and someone suggested Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, I gave him the name on the list, and then I was writing and not paying attention to what he was doing.
Nope.
And he was reading, and I'm thinking, what is wrong with him? What is so funny? Why is he laughing so much? I didn't think what he was reading was that hilarious. And then it dawned on me, he's doing Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Of course he's laughing.
I am laughing at absolutely nothing, and it was beautiful.
It was so good, I thought he had lost his mind. And I was just a dumbass.
Yes. Spoiler alert, I'm doing that again. I'm just fine, baby. I promise.
Okay, good. I'm prepared this time.
"How can I get there?" asked Dorothy. "You must walk. It is a long journey through a country that is sometimes pleasant and sometimes dark and terrible. However, I'll use all the magic arts I know to keep you from keep you from harm." "You won't go with me?" pleaded the girl, who began to look upon the little old woman as her only friend.
Bravo. That was good. And boy, did Joaquin Phoenix deserve that award. It was a SAG award he got for Best Actor, wasn't it?
SAG, Golden Globe, I think.
Yeah, all of them.
Every award that movie gets, it deserves and then some. Next.
Sonic.
Pass.
Oh, sorry. William Shatner's Puss in Boots.
Because it's not enough that I do his Kirk, Spock, help me. I have to do friggin' Puss in Boots.
No, I cannot do that, she replied, but I will give you a kiss, and no one will dare injure a person who has been kissed by a witch, who's been kissed by the Witch of the North. She came close to Dorothy and kissed her gently on the forehead, where her lips touched the girl, and then they left a round, shining mark, as Dorothy found out soon after.
And that's enough of that. Next. My baby looks confused.
I'm sorry, I'm just reading.
It's okay.
Okay. What book are you reading? Someone just arrived and asked about that.
We are reading the first few chapters of The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. So, you know, familiar territory.
Pugsley?
Pass.
Clark Gable.
I should study him. Pass.
Adam West's Batman.
Him I know.
Oh, yeah.
The road to the City of Emeralds is paved with yellow brick, said the witch, so you cannot miss it. When you get to Oz, do not be afraid of him, old chum, but tell your story and ask him to help you. Goodbye, my dear, and safe journey! Next.
Gaston.
The three Munchkins bowed low to her and wished her a pleasant journey, after which they walked away through the trees. The witch gave Dorothy a friendly little nod, whirled around on her left heel 3 times, and straightway disappeared, much to the surprise of little Toto, who barked after her loudly enough when she was gone, because he had been afraid even to growl while she stood by. Next. Oh, wait, sorry. Again, end of this chapter here, so I'll finish it up with Gaston here for this last sentence.
Okay.
But Dorothy, knowing her to be a witch, had expected her to disappear in just that way, and was not surprised in the least. But if she disappeared in a big bubble, that'd be confusing. Next voice.
Next voice is Battle Droid.
Okay. And this time I'm looking forward ahead to see when this chapter ends, and it's right there. All right. Chapter 3. How Dorothy Saved the Scarecrow. When Dorothy was left alone, she began to feel hungry, so she went to the cupboard and cut herself some bread, which she spread with butter. She gave some to Toto, and taking a pail from the shelf, she carried it down to the little brook that filled it with clear, sparkling water. Toto ran over to the trees and began to bark at the birds sitting there. Dorothy went to get him and saw such delicious fruit hanging from the branches that she gathered some of it, finding it just what she wanted to help out her breakfast. Roger, roger. Next.
Hold on. Doop-a-doo.
You can see right through my head. Whoa, freaky.
That's so freaky. George Clooney's Batman.
So, George Clooney.
Yeah.
Which I actually know how to appreciate.
Appreciate he's not doing Batman anymore.
Ouch. Then she went back to the house, having helped herself and Toto to get a good drink of the cool, clear water. She set about making ready for the journey to the City of Emeralds. Dorothy had only one other dress, but that happened to be clean and was hanging on a peg beside her bed. It was gingham with checks of white and blue, and although the blue was somewhat faded with many washings, it was still a pretty frock. The girl washed herself carefully, dressed herself in the clean gingham, and tied her pink sunbonnet on her head. She took a little basket and filled it with the bread from the cupboard, laying on a white cloth over the top. Then she looked down at her feet and noticed how old and worn her shoes were. So she's wearing more or less the same iconic dress that she wore in the MGM film, except she's wearing a pink bonnet now, honey. Isn't that lovely?
So lovely.
And with a basket full of bread, she is clearly off to Grandma's house. Next.
How about we go until 1:30 and then end the chapter that you're on at that point, and then go to the bonus stories.
Sounds good.
Okay. How's your voice holding up?
I'm doing good, actually.
Okay. Gollum.
This surely will never do for a long journey, Tortoises, she said. And Tortoise looked up to her face with his little black eyes and wagged his tail to show he knew what she meant. At that moment, Dorothy saw lying on the table the silver shoes that had belonged to the Witch of the East. I wonder if they will fit me, said Toto. Or she said to Toto. They would be just the thing to take a long walk in, but they would not wear out.
Yeah, silver shoes. Sounds just comfortable.
She took off her old leather shoes and tried on the silver ones, which fitted her well as if they had been made for hers.
Next.
Optimus Prime.
Finally, she picked up her basket. Come along, Toto, she said. We will go to the Emerald City and ask the Great Oz to how to get back to Kansas again. And with me voicing Optimus Prime in The Wizard of Oz, I've now turned into a Robot Chicken sketch once again.
Goodness.
Next.
Obi-Wan.
She closed the door, locked it, and put the key carefully in the pocket of her dress. And so, with Toto trotting along soberly behind her, she started on her journey. There were several roads nearby, but it did not take her long to find the one paved with yellow brick. Within a short time, she was walking briskly toward the Emerald City, her silver shoes tinkling merrily on the hard yellow roadbed. The sun shone bright, and the birds sang sweet, and Dorothy did not feel as bad as you might think a little girl would be, who had been suddenly whisked away from her own country and set down in the midst of a strange land that was filled with scum and villainy. Next.
Beast Wars Megatron.
She was surprised, as she walked along, to see how pretty the country was about her. There were neat fences along the side of the road, painted a dainty blue color, and beyond them were fields of grain and vegetables in abundance. Evidently, the Munchkins were good farmers and able to raise large crops. Yes. Once in a while, she would pass a house, and the people came to look out at her and bow low as she went by, for everyone knew that she had been the means of destroying the wicked witch and setting them free from bondage. The houses of the Munchkins were odd-looking dwellings, for each was round with a big dome for a roof. All were painted blue, for in this country of the East, blue was the favorite color. For now. Next.
Nope, that's all the voices we have for today. Thanks for coming, guys.
Baby,
What?
you're looking awfully guilty right now.
That's not fair. You can see me.
Yes, I can, and that's hilarious. She said, well, stick your tongue out. So, what's the next voice? Who is that?
Pee-wee.
Don't worry, this is a short bit.
Make it shorter.
Towards evening, when Dorothy was tired with her long walk... When Dorothy was tired with her long walk and began to wonder where she would pass the night, she came to a house rather larger than the rest. On the green lawn before it, many men and women were dancing. five little fiddlers played as loudly as possible, and the people were laughing and singing. Ah! While a big table nearby was loaded with delicious fruits and nuts and pies and cakes and many other good things to
Not
eat.
short. That was not short.
That was the end of it.
Oh, good.
And it just so happens that eat was a secret word. Ah! Sean Connery?
Please.
The people greeted Dorothy kindly and invited her to supper to pass the night with them. For this was the home of one of the richest Munchkins in the land, and his friends were gathered with him to celebrate their freedom from the bondage of the Wicked Witch. Dorothy ate a hearty supper and was waited upon by the rich Munchkin himself, whose name was Boq. B-O-Q, how do you say that? Boq? Book? Then she sat down upon a settee and watched the people dance. Better?
Yes. And no, Dylan, you will never convert me. My ears are too sensitive and too important.
Would you believe me if I told you that Pee Wee Herman actually has a decent lounge singing voice?
No, and I do not wish to find out.
I'm being serious here.
I don't believe you.
Baby, look at me. I'm being sincere. He actually sings pretty well.
Maybe Paul Rubens when he's not being an ass. But Pee Wee Herman does not. I've heard Pee Wee Herman sing, remember?
Yeah, I don't. Where would you have heard
The
Pee Wee
opening scene with the military choir? The Air Force choir? Or the Marine choir?
Right. You did hear Pee Wee sing, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which is funny.
No.
No.
It wasn't funny.
No, it is funny.
Oh.
Because this is Pee Wee singing in the Christmas special, and he sounds exactly like you would imagine Pee Wee singing would. But then he has a little bit in Big Top Pee Wee, in the very beginning, where he is not Paul Rubens, but he is in fact Pee Wee Herman, and he sings really well. He said with total sincerity, but stifling his giggling because you know that because he knows you don't believe him.
Not at all.
But it's true though. But anyway, next.
Emperor Palpatine.
When Boq saw her silver shoes, he asked, "You must be a great sorceress." "Why?" asked the girl. "Because you wear silver shoes and have killed the witch of the East. Besides, you have white in your frock, and only witches and sorceresses wear white." "My dress is blue and white checked," said Dorothy, smoothing out the wrinkles in it. "It is kind of you to wear that," said Boq. "Blue is the color of the Munchkins, and white is the witch color. So we know you are a friendly witch." "She has absolute power!" And Raven is just giving me this very weary, "Are you done?" look.
I certainly hope so.
Next.
Jay Bowman?
Pass.
Eric Cartman.
Dorothy did not know what to say of this, for all the people seemed to think her a witch, and she knew very well that she was only an ordinary little girl who had come by the chance of a cyclone into a strange land. When she had tried watching and dancing, Boq led her into the house, where he gave her a room with a pretty bed in it. The sheets were made of blue cloth, and Dorothy slept soundly in them till morning, with Toto curled up on the blue rug beside her. Kick ass!
Next.
Judge Claude Frollo.
She ate a hearty breakfast and watched a wee Munchkin baby, who played with Toto and pulled his tail, and crowded and laughed in a way that greatly amused Dorothy. Toto was a fine curiosity to all the people, for they had never seen a dog before. "How far is it to the Emerald City?" the girl asked. "I don't know," answered Bock gravely, "for I have never been there. It is better for the people to keep away from Oz, unless they have business with him. But it is a long way to the Emerald City, and it will take you many days. The country here is rich and pleasant, but you must pass through rough and dangerous places before you reach the end of your journey." Next.
The wizard from the original Wizard of Oz.
This worried Dorothy a little, but she knew that only the great Oz could help her get to Kansas again, so she bravely resolved to not turn back. She bade her friends goodbye and again started along the road of yellow brick. When she had gone several miles, she thought she would stop to rest, and so climbed to the top of the fence beside the road and sat down. There was a great cornfield beyond the fence, and not far away she saw a scarecrow placed high on a pole to keep the birds from the ripe corn. Next.
Carl Pinkleton.
Pass.
R. Lee Emery.
Dorothy leaned her chin upon her hand and gazed thoughtfully at the scarecrow. Its head was a small sack stuffed with straw. His eyes, nose, and mouth painted onto it to represent a face. An old pointed blue hat that had belonged to some Munchkin was perched on its head, and the rest of the figure was a blue suit of clothes, worn and faded, which had also been stuffed with straw. On the feet were some old boots with blue tops, which every man wore in this country, and the figure was raised above the corn stalks by means of the pole stuck up its back. "Now drop and give me 30, soldier!" Holy Jesus! Next.
Jim Carrey's The Grinch.
While Dorothy was looking earnestly into the queer painted face of the scarecrow, she was surprised to see that one of the eyes slowly winked at her. She thought she must have been mistaken at first, for none of the scarecrows in Kansas ever wink. But presently the figure nodded its head at her in a friendly way. Then she climbed down from the fence and walked up to it, while Toto ran around the pole and barked. "Good day," said the scarecrow in a rather husky voice. Next.
Jim Carrey's The Riddler.
"Did you speak?" asked the girl in wonder. "Certainly," answered the scarecrow. "How do you do?" "I am pretty well, thank you," replied Dorothy politely. "How do you do?" "I am not feeling well," said the scarecrow with a smile, "for it's very tedious being perched up here day and night to scare away the crows." Next.
G1 Soundwave.
"Can't you get down?" asked Dorothy. "No, for this pole is stuck up my back. If you will please take away the pole, I shall be greatly obliged to you." Dorothy reached up both arms and lifted the figure off the pole. For being stuffed with straw, he was quite light. "Thank you very much," said the scarecrow, when he had been set down on the ground. "I feel like a new man."
We have a sponsored request.
For who?
For from Tom Jackson.
Hello, Tom.
And,
Uh-oh.
one moment.
Silence your cell phones, please.
Hey, want to do this by yourself?
No.
Don't give me crap. Okay.
No, you.
Now, he wants you to do Tommy Wiseau, but he wants you to sing as Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, Lord.
I love it.
Dorothy was puzzled at this, for it sounded queer to hear a stuffed man speak, and to see him bow and walk along beside her. I don't know what singing Time Wiseau sounds like, but there you go.
I would imagine that's pretty much it.
Who are you? Asked the Scarecrow when he stretched himself and yawned. And where are you going? Thank you.
That was good.
Next.
Oh. Goldar from the Power Rangers.
Pass.
Pass. Dr. Hibbert.
Why, my name's Dorothy, said the girl, and I'm going to the Emerald City to ask the Great Oz to send me back to Kansas. Where's the Emerald City? He inquired, and who is Oz? Why, don't you know? She asked in surprise. No, indeed, I don't know anything. You see, I'm stuffed, so I have no brains at all.
Next.
Pink guy.
Pink guy? Pass.
Salamander Man.
Pass.
Batman from the animated series.
Oh, said Dorothy. I'm awfully sorry for you. Don't you think, he asked, if I go to the Emerald City with you, that the Great Oz would give me some brains? I cannot tell, she returned, but you may come with me if you like. If Oz will not give you any brains, you'll be no worse off than you are now. We're off to see the wizard. Next.
Mad Hatter. Is there an animated series, Mad Hatter? I think that may have been what they were asking for.
Yes, there is. Voiced by Roddy McDowall, actually.
Oh.
Which is all kinds of funny, considering he was also the bookworm in the 60s show. How many people get to play two different Batman villains, I ask you? Let's see. Where was it? It was right here. That is true, said the Scarecrow. You see, he continued confidently, I don't mind my legs and arms and body being stuffed because I cannot get hurt. If anyone treads on my toes or sticks a pin in me, it doesn't matter, for I can't feel it. But I do not want people to call me a fool, and if my head stays stuffed with straw instead of with brains, as is yours, how am I ever to know anything? I understand how you feel, said the little girl, who was truly sorry for him. If you will come with me, I'll ask Oz to do all he can for you. Thank you, he answered gratefully. Next voice.
Owen Wilson.
They walked back to the road. Dorothy helped him over the fence, and they started along the path to the yellow brick road for the Emerald City. Toto did not like this addition to the party at first. He smelled around the stuffed man as he suspected there might be a nest of rats in the straw, and he often growled in an unfriendly way at the Scarecrow. That'd be a fun little addition to the movie. Dorothy would miss Scarecrow most of all, but Toto hates him. Final voice for this book, and then we'll move on to our surprise stories.
It's not quite 1:30.
No, but it will be at the end of this chapter.
Okay.
And
this is the final chapter.
Yes, isn't that what you suggested?
Oh, yes. Okay.
At the end of the chapter,
gotcha.
or 1:30, whichever came first?
No.
No?
I said at 1:30 we would finish up the chapter you were on.
Oh. Well, that'll be it by this point.
Okay. Because we didn't get started until 12:30.
Yeah.
Me.
Oh, jeez. This is always so awkward.
And pressury. Yes, dear. How do you think I sound? Show us, why don't you?
Show us, why don't you?
Hey!
Goodbye, Toto, said Dorothy.
Been fun, guys. I'm divorcing him now.
Yes, and
Bye-bye.
I deserve that. Goodbye, Raven. I'll always remember you. Okay, for real this time. Don't mind Toto, said Dorothy to her new friend. He never bites. Unless you ask him to. Oh, I'm not afraid, replied the Scarecrow. He can't hurt the straw. Do let me carry that basket for you. I shall not mind it.
I'm sorry. I'm actually laughing at something from the chat. Mr. Critical said, Raven sounds like a British Elmo.
British Elmo.
You did first. That's good. Okay, carry on.
British Elmo, write that down.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. I shall not mind it, for I can't get tired. I'll tell you a secret, he continued as he walked along. There is only one thing in the world I am afraid of. What is that? Asked Dorothy. The Munchkin farmer who made you? No, answered the Scarecrow. It's a lighted match. And all my sexy horny minions.
Keep it family friendly, please.
Just making sure that Kappa stays off my back. And
no.
that was the first 3 chapters of The Wizard of Oz. Da, da, da. Be sure to tune in for our next stream at 5 o'clock, also public, when we'll be delving into the next couple chapters. And now we move on to our bonus stories, because it is...
You need to start out as Wolfabob, please.
You just start off as Wolfabob?
After you tell us what the story is. Or after Wolfabob tells us what the story is.
Well, let me go ahead and get myself all situated here, and I will do my best to read this book one-handed. Let's see. Gotta raise my sleeve up here a little bit so this little fellow can fit on my arm. There we go. And here we have Wolfabob, who is looking like a nice, healthy pink. And anyway, today we are going to be finishing up this stream by looking at Grimm's Fairy Tales. And because we're using Wolfabob here, hello. Of course, there's only one story that we can start out with. And that is, of course, Little Red Riding Hood.
Yay!
Which is on what page? We got Sleeping Beauty, Tom Thumb, The Wonderful Magician, The Queen Bee, The Turnip, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Little Red Riding Hood can be found on page 122, so we will just skip ahead there. Ah, there we go.
Gothard, the book he got is a Barnes & Noble exclusive that has the first 5 books.
Oh, yes.
Of Gothard asked how many chapters are in The Wizard of Oz. I'm not sure the answer to that question, but the book that Bobsheaux was reading out of is 5 entire books.
Yes.
Of the series.
Yes, of the 14 books that were written in the original series, this is the first 5. So, bit of a lengthy read, but hey, I'm down. And included in this volume is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, The Marvelous Land of Oz, Ozma of Oz. The second and third books here would be the basis for Return to Oz.
That is so creepy.
What?
With the green screen effect.
Whoa. But, yeah. And Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and The Road to Oz. So, you know, very vague, nondescript titles there. And how many chapters in The Wizard of Oz? Good question. Let's see what we got here.
Now, are we wanting Wolfabob to do other voices, or do you just want Wolfabob to read?
The Wizard of Oz.
I'm waiting for answer. I'm giving him the chance to answer.
Yes,
I'm not sure how we're supposed to do this.
24 chapters. So, if we're doing, I don't know, 3 chapters a stream here, that gives us a good 8 months of material.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. But yes, for Grimm's Fairy Tales, we are beginning with Little Red Riding Hood, appropriately enough. Oh, and look, there they are on the cover. Little Red Riding Hood and the big bad wolf himself, who just wants to shake her hand because he's a nice guy. He's just misunderstood. As he wants to eat her. Okay, first voice for Little Red Riding Hood.
By the way, the video for these streams will be available on Saturday.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. You guys can go and watch if you weren't here for the whole time. You can go and see what you missed.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're starting out with Wolfabob doing the voice of that knight from the Holy Grail.
That night? What night?
I don't know. The French knight. I saw the French knight. I saw that knight, and I don't know anything about that Holy Grail thing.
Sorry, I don't know that night, but I will do my best to read and Wolfabob and do the French knight from Monty Python. Once upon a time, there was a dear little girl who was loved by everyone who looked at her, but most of all by her grandmother, and there was nothing that she could not have given to the child. Once she gave her a little cap of red velvet, which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else, so she was always called Little Red Riding Hood. You silly English kniggets!
How is that considered funny? I don't understand.
Some things are funny just because they're so silly.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Rafiki.
One day, her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, Rafiki show you the way. Here is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine to take them to your grandmother. She is ill and weak, and they will do her good. Set out before it gets hot, and when you are going, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path, or you will fall and break the bottle, and then your grandmother will get nothing. And when you go into her room, don't forget to say, 'Good morning,' and don't peep into every corner before you do it." Okay.
Weird. Okay. The Cheshire Cat.
"I will take great care," said Little Red Riding Hood to her mother, and gave her hand on it. The grandmother lived out in the wood, half a league from the village, and just as Little Red Riding Hood entered the wood, a wolf met her. Red Riding Hood did not know what a wicked creature he was, and was not afraid of him. Next.
Next is Mr. Potato Head.
"Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," said he. "Why, thank you, kindly wolf. Whither away so early, Little Red Riding Hood?" 'Cause he knows her name, I guess. "To my grandmother's. What's it to you?" "What have you got in your apron?" "Cake and wine. Yesterday was baking day, so poor sick grandmother is to have something good to make her stronger." Next.
John Malkovich. Malkovich?
I think it's Mitch.
Okay.
"Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?"
Oh my God.
Yes, he's from the same planet as Christopher Walken. "A good quarter of a league farther out in the wood. Her house stands under 3 large oak trees. The nut trees are just below. You surely must know it," replied Little Red Riding Hood. How's that? Next.
Good? Oh, God.
Oh, what? Yes, baby?
We've reached one of those names.
Which name?
Daryl. Old Daryl Evans.
Eric Garbage.
Eric Garbage, yeah, exactly.
The wolf thought to herself, "What a tender young creature. What a nice plump mouthful. She'd be better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily."
That is perfect for this voice. Could not have chosen a better line.
Yes, it
Reaper.
is. Oh, God. I love Johnny Depp. Wonderful actor.
Mm-hmm. I've loved him since 21 Jump Street.
Derek Savage would have made a better Big Bad Wolf in the Into the Woods movie than Johnny
you
Depp.
hush your mouth.
Look at that flesh. Pink and plump. Hello, little girl.
Ew.
I know, right? It's perfect.
No.
Anyway, I must act craftily so as to catch both. So he walked for a short time by the side of Little Red Riding Hood, and then he said, "See, Little Red Riding Hood, how pretty the flowers are about here. Why don't you look around? I believe, too, that you do not hear how sweetly the little birds are singing. You walk gravely along as if you were going to school, while everything else out here in the woods is merry."
Give me some Johnny Depp Captain Jack Sparrow, please.
You're welcome. Little Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw the sunbeams dancing here and there through the trees, and pretty flowers growing everywhere, she thought, "Suppose I take Grandmother a fresh nosegay. That would please her too. It is so early in the day that I shall still get there in good time." So she ran from the path into the wood to look for flowers. Pardon me while I turn the page here, savvy?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever she picked one, she fancied that she saw a still prettier one farther on, and ran after it, and got deeper and deeper into the wood. So, bit lost there, eh? Next.
Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Odd request.
I don't remember seeing any screen adaptations of Mice and Men, so I'm just gonna wing it here. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked at the door. "Who is there?" "Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf. "She is bringing cake and wine. Open the door." "Lift the latch," called the grandmother. "I am too weak and cannot get up." And tell me about the rabbits again.
I am grabbing a suggestion off of a recent, even though I'm many pages behind.
Yes.
But I'm using my admin privilege to do this. Richard from Sabrina Online.
Oh boy. The best I can do is go off of the Sabrina Online radio play for Richard.
There's a radio play?
Well, they call it a radio play. It's more like something that was done for YouTube and streaming and such.
Was Zigzag in it?
Oh, yeah. It ends right at the point where Sabrina gets mugged for the first time, actually. Yeah, it couldn't keep going on forever, but it's an interesting listen. It's not perfect, but worth listening to if you can stomach the many, many narrators in that show. But, let's see. Richard, who was right there. The wolf lifted the latch, the door flew open, and without saying a word, went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured her. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself in her cap, laid himself in bed, and drew the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood, however, had been running about picking flowers, and when she had gathered so many that she could carry no more, she remembered her grandmother and set out on the way to her. Next.
Sir Topham Hat?
Pass.
Okay. Spock.
She was surprised to find the cottage door standing open, and when she went into the room, she had such a strange feeling that she said to herself, "Oh dear, how uneasy I feel today."
Dylan, quit spamming.
Yes, let's not do that, please. And at other times, I like being with grandmother so much. This feeling seems illogical. She called out, "Good morning," but received no answer. So she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother, with her cap pulled far over her face, and looking very strange. Fascinating, Captain.
Very good. By the way, guys, Bobsheaux is not a Trekkie.
No.
I am a Trekkie. I love Star Trek.
Yes.
I know who Captain Sisko is. I don't think he knows who Captain Sisko is. Just
I
doubt we would get to that name anyway because we have so many more names that I've already written down.
I do not know who Cisco is, I'm afraid. Yes, Star Wars fan, Star Trek fan. Somehow it works.
Next is Boris Karloff's Grinch.
Well, Karloff would be great for this story.
Ring-a-ling, ring, 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 ring.
Shame. Pardon me.
I can leave you to do
Shame.
this on your own, and I can go answer my phone call. Up to you.
I love you.
You better.
I do.
Nope.
Oh, grandmother, she said, what big ears you have. The better to hear you with, my child, was the reply. But, grandmother, what big eyes you have, she said. The better to see you with, my dear. But, grandmother, what large hands you have. The better to hug you with. Oh, but, grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have. The better to eat you with. Just perfect.
I'm hearing I can't tell if it's music or a commercial or something in the background.
You're hearing music. I've still got Wizard of Oz playing. Should I turn that off?
Okay. It was a little distracting. I don't know how it is for everybody else, though.
Next voice.
Darkwing Duck.
Pass.
Tim Curry.
And scarcely had the wolf said this, than with one bound he was out of bed and swallowed up Red Riding Hood. It was a full day of eating for both. When the wolf had appeased his appetite, he laid down again in the bed, fell asleep, and began to snore very loud. The huntsman was just passing the house, and thought to himself, "How is the old woman snoring? I must... How the old woman is snoring. I must see if she wants anything." Yes, the huntsman, which was previously established at in the story. Next.
Ba-dum-ba-dum. I doubt you're gonna know this one. Peter Capaldi.
Pass.
Yeah, not a Doctor Who fan. His mother and I are Doctor Who fans. Unfortunately, I've only seen a few of the Capaldi episodes. I'm about to force myself to get through all of them so that I can move on to the next one. But,
Is Capaldi the old guy that everybody hates?
Yes. He's a good actor. He's a really good actor. The writing was absolute shit for his seasons. The Doctor is supposed to love people. He is fascinated and amused by humanity. They had Capaldi being absolutely disgusted and infuriated with humanity. He was so crotchety. I don't know. They did not. It was the writing. It wasn't Capaldi's fault. Unfortunately, I hate him. So, but the kids and I want to move on to the female Jodie. I'm drawing a blank. The female Doctor, we want to see those, and we have to get through the Capaldi episodes. But okay. Dark Helmet.
I'm sorry, to do a proper Dark Helmet, I cannot do Wolf of Bob. I gotta cover my mouth
Jodie
for this
Whittaker, yes.
one. Let's see.
We can save Dark Helmet for the next story, since I just wanted you to get through Red Riding Hood with Wolf of Bob.
That makes sense. Okay, we'll hold on.
Circle back, yeah.
Yeah, Dark Helmet for now. Sorry.
A random munchkin.
So he went into the room, and when he came to the bed, he saw the wolf lying in it. "Do I find thee here, thou old sinner?" he said. "I have long sought thee." Then, just as he was going to fire at him, it occurred to him that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother, and that she might still be saved. So he did not fire, but took a pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach of the sleeping wolf. When he made 2 snips, he saw the little Red Riding Hood shining, and then he made 2 snips more, and the little girl sprang out, crying, "Oh, how frightened I have been!" How dark it was inside the wolf! And after that, the aged grandmother came out alive also, but scarcely able to breathe. Red Riding Hood, however, quickly fetched great stones with which they filled the wolf's body, and when he awoke, he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy, he fell down at once and fell dead.
Charming story, this.
Quick answer to the chat. If I had started with the number 1 doctor, I would not have carried on with the series. Eccleston was my doctor. He will always be my doctor. I loved Eccleston. I loved Tennant. I learned to like Matt Smith. Capaldi did not grow on me. But yeah, Tennant, excellent. Eccleston, so good. Love Eccleston. He will always be my doctor. Anyway, Raul Julia.
I thought you said that Jonah was your doctor.
Jonah is my MSTPK doctor.
Oh, that was so great. Back when we first started dating, I showed Raven a couple of episodes of MST3K, some with Joel, some with Mike, and they were funny, but nothing was really grabbing her. But then we saw the premiere of the Return.
Oh my god, the monster song.
Yes, every country has a monster.
Every country has a monster. I was sold.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't really like him as a person. I had to unfollow him on Twitter.
Sorry, baby.
But he wasn't an absolute worthless ass, so I'm not like, I can't watch him because I'm not going to support him. But, yeah.
But yes, it was so smart to put that song in the first episode, because I was on the fence about him too. He didn't strike me as exactly the MST3K host kind of type, if that makes sense. But then seeing him bust that out, oh wow, we're in for a ride with this season. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, and he did not disappoint. He did not disappoint.
He did not.
I'm sad that The Gauntlet is the last season. It's going to be on Netflix, but
because we have seen it resurrected many times before, who knows?
Never say never.
Never say never. No.
Bender?
Pass.
Okay. Are we still on Red Riding Hood? I've lost track.
Yes, we got 1 page left.
Okay. Beetlejuice.
Then all 3 were delighted. The huntsman drew off the wolf skin and went home with it. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine which Red Riding Hood had brought, and revived. But Red Riding Hood thought to herself, "As long as I live, I will never live. I will never by myself leave the path to run into the wood. And my mother has forbidden me to do so. Listen to your mother, kids."
Doc Brown.
What a hairy finger you have. I touched myself a lot when I was a kid. Listen to your mother, kids.
No.
Oh, come on. That was begging for that. Doc Brown?
Yes, Doc Brown.
It is also related that once when Red Riding Hood was again taking cakes to the old grandmother, another wolf spoke to her and tried to entice her from the path. Red Riding Hood was, however, on her guard, and went straight forward on her way, and told her grandmother that she had met the wolf, and that she had said, "Great Scott! Good morning," to her. But with such a wicked look in his eyes, that if they had not been on the public road, she was certain that he would have eaten her up. Next.
Carol Burnett?
Pass.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd ever done it. I love Carol Burnett. I didn't think I'd ever heard you do her voice before.
No.
Samuel L. Jackson.
I am sick of all these mother effing wolves and these mother effing grandmas. Let's see. Well, said the grandmother, we will shut the door that he may not come in. Soon afterwards, the wolf knocked and cried, Open the door, grandmother. I am Little Red Riding Hood, and am fetching you some cakes. But they did not speak or open the door. So the Greybeard stole twice or thrice around the house. Greybeard? Was Gandalf out there? And at last jumped on the roof, intended to wait until Red Riding Hood went home in the evening, and then to steal after her and devour her in the darkness. And the last voice for this story?
Last voice, Baymax?
Pass.
Teen Titans Raven.
Ugh. But the grandmother saw what was... Okay, sorry, it's supposed to be Wolf of Bob, forgot. Getting into character. But the grandmother saw what was in his thoughts. In front of the house was a great stone trough. So she said to the child, Take the pail, Red Riding Hood. I made some sausages yesterday, so carry the water in which I boiled them to the trough. Red Riding Hood carried until the great trough was quite full. Then the smell of the sausages reached the wolf, and he sniffed and peeped down, and at last stretched out his neck so far that he could no longer keep his footing, and began to slip, and slipped down from the roof straight into the great trough, and was drowned. But Red Riding Hood went joyously home, and never did anything to harm anyone. Oh yeah, except the frickin' 2 wolves that you killed. And that was Little Red Riding Hood, wolf murderer.
What story shall we do next?
Take a bow for the audience at home. Thank you.
Yay, Wolf
Thank
Bob.
you. Thank you. I'll be here all week. But not really.
No, you won't.
There, I have pulled my hand out of the wolf's ass. Sweaty. And let's see. On to our next story, which shall be what? Let's see. Let's do something somewhat familiar here. Shall we do the tale of Sleeping Beauty?
Oh, yes.
The good version. Let's see. Yes?
Strangely enough, just a few voices down on the list.
Whoa, check it out. The book's a pink lightsaber. Zoom, zoom, zoom. A few voices down the list, yes.
Maleficent from the 2014 movie.
Ugh.
You know, the good version.
If that was the good version, just think of how horrible the sequel is. We're starting with Maleficent. Is that what we're doing?
The Queen Jolie's version, please.
Queen Jolie. Perfect. Perfect casting. Wonderful actress.
She was molded by the gods to play the part.
Molded, chiseled, willed. Whatever word you like, it came from the gods somehow. They gave her this story!
Shut up and read it in her voice.
I know who you are. Do you? You're that very godmother. No! Anyway. See? That's the laugh. That is the same laugh that I have every time I do one of the 4. So you know.
Oh, you know too, don't you?
I do. But you understand.
No.
You weren't enjoying seeing my anguish over reliving that movie. Really? Just now, when you weren't laughing, you weren't enjoying yourself.
Perhaps.
You lie! Anyhow, we're beginning Sleeping Beauty with Angelina Jolie's Maleficent.
Yes.
Once
Do
upon
her
a
justice.
time, there lived a king and a queen who had no children, and this they lamented very much. But one day, as the queen was walking by the side of the river, a little fish lifted its head out of the water and said, "Your wish shall be fulfilled, and you shall soon have a daughter." What that little fish had foretold soon came to pass, and the queen had a little girl that was so very beautiful that the king could not cease looking on it for joy, and determined to hold a great feast. So he invited not only his relations, friends, and neighbors, but also all the fairies, that they might be kind and good to his little daughter. Next.
That package that you ordered for the new segment has arrived. You'll have to pick it up after the stream.
Aha, neat.
Yes. I just got the text message. Yukon Cornelius.
Yeah, quite the jump there from the elegance of Angelina Jolie to Yukon friggin' Cornelius. Okay.
I know, that is quite a difference. Whiplash.
Now, there were 13 fairies in this kingdom, and he only had 12 golden dishes for them to eat out of, so that he was obliged to leave one of the fairies without an invitation. The rest came, and after the feast was over, they gave all their best gifts to the little princess. One gave her virtue, another beauty, another gold and silver, silver and gold! Wahoo! Nothing. And so on till she had all that was excellent in the world. When 11 had done blessing her, the 13th, who had not been invited, was very angry on that account, came in, and determined to take her revenge. So she cried out, "The king's daughter shall in her 15th year be wounded by a spindle, and fall down dead!" Then the 12th, who had not yet given her gift, came forward and said that the bad wish must be fulfilled, but that she could soften it, and that the king's daughter would not die, but fall asleep for 100 years. Next.
Are you doing how many sentences was that?
I'm not counting. I'm just kind of eyeballing it.
Okay, well, you got a lot of voices to get through still.
And that's okay. We got a lot of stories to do.
Okay. Yeah, but you can only read for so long, or your voice gives out, and you still have another stream to do.
I'll be alright.
Yeah, okay. Hermie.
But the king hoped to save his dear child from the threatened evil, and ordered that all the spindles in the kingdom should be bought up and destroyed. All the fairies' gifts were in the meantime fulfilled, for the princess was so beautiful and well-behaved, and amiable and wise, that everyone who knew her loved her. Now it happened that on the very day that she was 15 years old, the king and queen were not at home, and she was left alone in the palace.
Wow. That was really, really good.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the first time I did him.
I think it's the first time I've heard you do it, and that was excellent.
Thank you.
Can you give us a random demon voice?
Random demon voice.
So she roved about by herself, and looked at the rooms and chambers, till at last she came to an old tower, to which there was a narrow staircase, ending with a little door. In the door there was a golden key, and when she turned it, the door sprang open, and there sat an old lady spinning away very busily. "Why, how now, good mother," said the princess. "What are you doing there?"
You better stop that. You're going to kill your voice.
Yes, just imagine if this was the voice of Princess Aurora. I know who you are.
Do you?
You're my fairy godmother.
What?
Behave. Okay, Dr. Facilier?
I can give him a go. After I take a little swig here. Dr. Facilier, voiced by the incomparable Keith David. Let's see if I can...
Who is Dr. Facilier?
He is the villain from The Princess and the Frog.
Oh,
The Shadow Man.
yeah. Give that a go.
Spinning, said the old lady, and nodded her head. How prettily that little thing turns around, said the princess, and took the spindle and began to spin. But scarcely had she touched it before the prophecy was fulfilled, and she fell down lifeless to the ground. However, she was not dead, but had only fallen into a deep sleep, and the king and the queen, who had just then came home, and all the court fell asleep too, and the horses slept in their stables, and the dogs in the court, the pigeons on the housetop, and the flies on the walls. Even the fire in the hearth left off blazing, and went to sleep. And the meat that was roasting stood still, and the cook, who was at the moment pulling the kitchen boy by the hair to give him a box on the ear for something he had done amiss, let him go, and both fell asleep. And so everything stood still, and slept soundly.
That's good.
Thank you.
Wasn't the Shadow Man based on Papa Legba?
I've never heard of Papa Legba before. No idea.
Oh, it's from my hometown. Well, popular in my hometown. Right up there with Marie Laveau.
If you...
Voodoo and hoodoo.
Oh yes, lots of voodoo and hoodoo. I got voodoo, I got hoodoo, I got things I ain't even tried. 'Cause I got friends on the other side.
Yes, I'm originally from New Orleans, for anyone that doesn't know.
Yes. Excellent villain song. They gotta bring those back. Look, Disney, the twist villain is nice, but you're ignoring this wonderful tradition of the over-the-top hammy villain. Sometimes we like a guy to twirl his mustache for us to boo at right from the get-go. Come on. We see some guy in a top hat and skull makeup. We want to boo at this guy. It's okay for there to be a clear bad guy every now and then. Come on. Villain song. Give us another villain song. And it doesn't even have to be a scary villain song. What was the first one? Hi Diddly Dee from Pinocchio. But yes. Next voice.
Dr. Robotnik.
A large hedge of thorns soon grew around the palace, and every year it became higher and thicker, till at last the whole palace was surrounded and hid, so that not even the roof or the chimneys could be seen. But there went a report through all the land of the of the beautiful sleeping Rosebud, for so was the king's daughter called. So that from time to time several kings' sons came, and tried to break through the thicket into the palace. This they could never do, for the thorns and bushes laid hold of them as it were with hands. So they were and there they were stuck fast and died miserably. That's very good indeed. Next.
Shaggy. Matthew Lillard's Shaggy. Because he is the only Shaggy since Casey Kasem.
I'm sorry that you had to make that distinction.
I am too.
It's like Optimus Prime. I could give you the old Optimus Prime that has been the standard ever since the 80s. Or there could be give me your face. Ugh. Like after many, many years there came a king's son into the land, and an old man told him the story of the thicket of thorns. You're typing.
I'm sorry, I was answering a question.
I'm doing this for you, baby. Pay attention. Let's see. An old man told him the story of the thicket of thorns, and how a beautiful palace stood behind it, in which was a wondrous princess called Rosebud, asleep with all of her court. He told too how he had heard of his grandfather that many princes had come, and had tried to break through the thicket, but all had stuck fast and died. Zoinks! The young prince said, "All this shall not frighten me. I'll go and see Rosebud." The old man tried to dissuade him, but he persisted in going. Next.
The visuals look like bacteria. Yes, they did for a minute.
Did they?
Yes.
I'm liking this. It's all trippy. Although I do got to get a better camera for this, don't I?
You do.
Pink lightsaber.
But the consensus seems to be that the trippy background is fun.
Yeah. Keep it.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you, everybody.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh. What are they suggesting?
We've come to another entry on the list.
Yes.
The list of voices that should never be uttered.
Mm-hmm.
Blah.
Who is it? Say it.
Trump.
I'm gonna make this story great again. Because let's face it, it needs to be made great again.
I am officially divorcing you. Yeah.
Now that very day, with 100 years completed, and as the prince came to the thicket, he saw nothing but beautiful flowering shrubs, through which he passed with ease, and they closed after him as firm as ever. When he came at last to the palace, and where the court lay, the dogs asleep, and the horses in the stables, and on the roof sat the pigeons fast asleep with their heads under their wings. And when he came into the palace, the flies slept on the walls, and the cook in the kitchen was still holding up her hand as if she would beat the boy, and the maid sat with a black fowl in her hand, ready to be plucked. And we're done here because that was a small paragraph.
Thank God.
I know, right? If I just kept going, that'd be the most irritating thing ever, wouldn't it?
Captain Barbossa, and make it count.
Then he went on still further, and all was so still that he could hear every breath he drew, till at last he came to the old tower, and opened the door of the little room in which Rosebud was, and where she lay fast asleep, and looked so beautiful that he could not take his eyes off, and he stooped down and gave her a kiss. But the moment he kissed her, she opened her eyes and awoke, and smiled upon him. Was that better? And the last voice for this story?
Frank Drebin?
Pass.
Hans Gruber.
Pass.
Mr. Spacely.
Pass. Sorry, guys.
Peter Griffin.
Then they went
I'd
out.
pay to see that movie.
What?
Claire asked if you've ever thought about being in a pirate movie.
That'd be interesting. Oh, wait, sorry. That'd be interesting.
You can do Victor.
Then they went out together, and presently the king and queen also awoke, and all the court, and they gazed on each other with great wonder. And the horses got up and shook themselves, and the dogs jumped about and barked. The pigeons took their heads out from under their wings, and looked about and flew into the fields. The flies on the walls buzzed away. The fire in the kitchen blazed up and cooked the dinner, and the roast meat turned around again. The cook gave the boy a box on the ear so that he cried out, and the maid went on plucking the fowl. And then was the wedding of the prince and Rosebud celebrated, and they lived happily together in all their lives long.
I'm offended.
Why?
We went from talking about pirates We had some Captain Barbossa. We had a little Captain Jack there, and then all of a sudden Peter Griffin. Griffin, whatever.
Oh, my fans love you.
Blech.
All right, let's see. Next story. So many unknown stories here that we need to read someday. But Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
That's a good idea. That's a good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
And I find this so strange that I'm pretty sure that the plural of dwarf is spelled V-E-S, not F-S. But every time I see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's dwarfs. F-S. What's up with that? But anyway, page 96. Let's see. Oop. There we go. Ooh, here's something fun. The dwarves in the story look like little pirates. Crazy. Anywho, what are we starting off with?
Name I don't know. Rick Sanchez?
Rick Sanchez. Don't know that. Next.
Okay. Homer Simpson? I know who that is, but...
It was in the middle of winter when the broad flakes of snow were falling around, and a certain queen sat working at a window... Excuse me. At a window, the frame of which was made of black ebony, and she was looking out upon the snow, and pricked her finger, and 3 drops of blood fell upon it. Then she gazed thoughtfully upon the red drops which sprinkled the white snow, and said, "Would that my little daughter may be as white as that snow, and as red as the blood, and as black as the ebony window frame." And so the little girl grew up. Her skin was white as snow, her cheeks as rosy as the blood, and her hair as black as ebony, and she was called Snow White. Next.
Next is... Nicodemus?
Oh boy.
Who's Nicodemus? Sounds familiar.
He was the elderly wizard rat from The Secret of Nim.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
By the way, I am so glad that I saw that with you again after so many years. Because you helped me get some new insight on that one.
You're welcome.
Isn't Mrs. Brisby gonna get her own name? Wow.
Nope, just dead husband. That's all she is. She's a product of her dead husband.
She's the wife of her husband. That's all that she is. Yay, feminism. Strong female character with no name, just her husband's title. Anyway, Nicodemus. But this queen died, and the king soon married another wife, who was very beautiful, but so proud that she could not bear to think that anyone could surpass her. She had a magical looking glass, to which she used to go and gaze upon herself in it, and say, "Mirror, mirror, tell me true, of all the ladies in the land, who is the fairest? Tell me who." And the mirror answered, "Thou, queen, art fairest in the land." And so easy to see him with his weird looking glass that he's looking into with that. So very apropos.
And now for something completely different. Crush. Crush from Finding Nemo.
But like, Snow White grew more and more beautiful, and when she was 7 years old, she was as bright as the day and fairer than the queen herself, man. Then the mirror one day answered the queen when she went to consult it, as usual. Like, "Thou queen mayst fair and beauteous be, but like, Snow White is lovelier far than thee, brah."
Wilder Wonka.
Wilder Wonka. When she heard this, she turned pale with rage and envy, and called to one of her servants and said, "Take Snow White away into the White Wood, that I may never see her more." Then the servant led her away, but his heart melted when she had begged him to spare her life, and he said, "I will not hurt thee, thou pretty child." So he left her by herself, and though he thought it most likely that the wild beasts would tear her to pieces, with the wangdoodles and snozwangers and rotten vermicious canids, he felt that as if a great weight were taken off his heart when he made up his mind to not kill her, but leave her to her fate. Next.
The Grimace.
Pass.
Edwin.
Then poor Snow White wandered along through the wood in great fear, as the wild beasts roared about her, but none did her any harm. In the evening she came to a little cottage, and went there to rest herself, for her little feet would carry her no further. Wow, long bit of text here. Next voice.
Animal.
And actually looking ahead here, this story is looking like it's... what is this? 11 pages long, so I'm thinking this might be the last story we do for the
This
stream.
definitely was going to be the last story. Yes.
Animal, haha. Everything was spruce and neat in the cottage. On table was spread white cloth, where there were 7 little plates with 7 little loaves, and 7 little glasses with wine in them, and knives and forks laid in order. And by the wall stood 7 beds. As she was very hungry, she picked up little of each loaf, drank a little wine of each glass, and after that she went to lie down and rest. Ha 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 ha.
Animal was one of my dad's favorite Muppets. I have no idea why.
Because he's crazy.
If you knew my dad, you would know that crazy really wasn't his, was something he looked for.
And you know my dad, you wouldn't think that the Muppets would be his thing either, but there we go.
Your dad is a mystery. You never can tell what he's gonna like.
Yeah, how surprised was I when I learned that the Rainbow Connection was his and my mom's song.
I know, that is so sweet.
Isn't it?
So cute.
Anyway, next voice.
Peanut.
Let's see, where were we?
So she tried all the little beds, and one was too long, and the other was too short to last the 7th suitor. And there she laid herself down and went to sleep.
So, what is this? The story of the Goldilocks now?
This one was just right, Uncle Tiffy. Presently, in came the masters of the cottage, who were 7 little dwarfs that lived among the mountains, and dug and searched about for gold. They lighted up their 7 lamps and saw directly that all was not right. The first one said, "Who's been sitting on my stool?"
Ew.
Aww.
Next.
Next is Quagmire. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
The second, "Who's been eating off my plate?" Oh! The third, "Who's been picking my bread?" The fourth, "Who's been meddling with my spoon?"
Again, ew.
The fifth, "Who's been handling my fork?" The sixth, "Who's been cutting with my knife?" And the seventh, who's been drinking my wine?" And the first looked around again and said, "Who's been lying in my bed?" All right.
Oh my god.
Next.
Sorry, I'm chewing. I haven't eaten anything all day. I'm starving. I've just made a peanut butter cracker.
Poor baby.
Mike Myers' Cat in the Hat.
Pass.
Sid the Sloth.
And the rest came running to him, and everyone cried out that somebody had been sleeping upon his bed. But the 7th saw Snow White, and called all his brethren to come and see her. And they cried out with wonder and astonishment, and brought their lamps to look at her, and said, "Good heavens, what a lovely child she is!" And they were delighted to see her, and took care not to wake her. and the 7 dwarfs slept an hour with each of the other dwarves in turn until the night was gone.
That sounds a bit more complicated than it needs to be. Next.
Rolf.
In the morning, Snow White told them all her story, and they pitied her, and said if she would keep all the things in order, and cook and wash and knit and spin for them, she might stay where she was, and they would take good care of her. Then they all went out all day long to their work, seeking for gold and silver in the mountains, and Snow White remained at home, and they warned her and said, "The Queen will soon find out where you are, so take care and let no one in." So it was the dwarf's idea that they keep her on if she'd do the cleaning and cooking and all that. It wasn't Snow White just offering her services, which was kind of nice. And it looks like Raven's doing a little Joker dance.
A Joker dance?
Yes. He kills someone and then...
Take a minute for the lag to catch up so I can see how you imitated me.
Sorry.
So you just looked at your girlfriend over here shimmying and decided that I looked like the Joker.
Anyway.
Really?
I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Do you?
Yes, I do. Because my lady is brilliant, and she's gorgeous, and she's funny, and...
Oh, don't kiss up now. It's too late.
But baby, look. I'm kissing up.
You're grossing everybody out, I'm sure. Knock it off.
Oh, they love it.
Don't give me the puppy dog eyes either. Takes a while for the lag.
There's that much lag.
Mm-hmm.
I have to wait to show you the puppy dog eyes.
Oh yeah.
But I have to show them to you now.
He doesn't do singers, guys.
I can't wait to do the puppy dog eyes. I need you to see them now. I'm sorry. Baby. Won't you look at my puppy dog eyes?
But if you want to hear a metal version of a song, go listen to the metal version of the Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. And if you're not watching The Witcher, what are you doing with your life? That is an amazing series. I can't believe we have to wait till 2021 to get the next season. Oh my god. Anyway.
Do you need
The
a
metal version of Toss a Coin to Your Witcher is amazing. It's as good as the original.
Do you need a smoke?
I might. I'm sorry, Christian Bale looks good.
Oh, is he in that?
Is he in that?
I've never seen it.
Is he in that?
It's an honest question for someone who's never seen it, I think, isn't
Why
it?
do I date you?
For reasons I
He
can't
is
divulge.
the Witcher.
Okay, fine. He is the Witcher.
My God, he looks good in that wig and just.
I've seen nothing but memes. I don't know the show at all. I don't know who's in it. I don't know where it is.
Toss a coin to your Witcher. Toss more than a coin. C3PO.
Yes, but why do you date me? For reasons I can't divulge over this stream.
No, you cannot. C3PO. Behave yourself.
You don't want me to behave myself.
Well, here you have to behave yourself. Later, all bets are off.
But the Queen, now that she thought Snow White was dead, believed that she was certainly the handsomest lady in the land. Yes, because a woman wants to be called the handsomest woman in the land, certainly.
They used to. That used to be a big compliment.
She went to the mirror and said, "Mirror, mirror, tell me true, of all the ladies in the land, who's the fairest? Tell me who." And the mirror answered, "Thou, Queen, art the fairest in the land, but over the hills in the greenwood shade, where the 7 dwarfs their dwelling have made, There Snow White is hiding her head, and she is lovelier far, O Queen, than thee. Am I?
Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. I have to move this one up.
What's that?
It was a new suggestion. We've still got a page and plus to go through, but still, I have to move this one up. Chamberlain from the Dark Crystal. Love that one. You did such a good job.
Thank you. Then the Queen was very much alarmed, for she knew that the mirror always spoke the truth, and was sure that the servant had betrayed her. And she could not bear to think that anyone lived who was more beautiful than she was. So she disguised herself as an old peddler and went her way over the hills to the place where the dwarves dwelt. She knocked on the door and cried, "Fair wares to sell." Snow White looked out the window and said, "Good day, good woman. What have you to sell?" "Good wares, fine wares," said she. "Laces and bobbins of all colors."
How can you not love the Chamberlain? He's horrible. I hate him, but I love him.
And they made him.
Someone asked, "What about are you going to review our Age of Resistance?" Stay tuned. You will find out what we think about that.
Next.
Hang on. My son is down here.
Oh, is he?
Yes, and wanting me to come do some Harry Potter Wizarding Unite after the stream. So asking me how long we were going to be. I figured I could run out there just for, 15, 20 minutes.
We've got 4 pages left in this story. We're getting through it.
Yeah.
Well, past the
How
halfway
many 16-year-olds do you know that make a special trip out of their day to come down and play a game with their mom? My son is amazing. I love him. Anyway.
Your son is quite the fellow.
Yes, he is. My baby. And he has my face.
Weird.
He does. He's making me giggle all over himself. Well, yeah, he still does laugh all over himself. Like, give me back my face. I want my freckles. I want my eyes. Give me my eyelashes. I have 2 kids, and my oldest and my son. My oldest is non-binary, so I don't, they. I call them they. Actually, what I call them is puddin' pop, but that's just me. I don't allowed to do that. Anyway, Butch the Bully.
Oh, God. Yes, from the subtle yet delightfully mustache-twirling of Chamberlain to the grotesquely over-the-top mustache-twirling of Butch. Brilliant.
"I will let the old lady in. She seems to be very good sort of body," thought Snow White. So she ran down and unbolted the door. "Bless me," said the old woman, "how badly your stays are laced. Let me lace them up with one of my new laces." Snow White did not dream of any mischief, so she stood up before the old woman. But she set to work so nimbly, she pulled the lace so tight, that Snow White lost her breath and fell down as if she were dead. "There's an end of all thy beauty," said the spiteful queen, and went away home.
She thinks she's so cute.
She thinks she's so cute. I'm gonna punk Snow White. I love being a bully.
Next. After you're done typing.
Just a moment. Sorry. The next one is Flash, 100-yard dash.
Oh, God. I will give him one sentence, then move on.
Thank you.
Here's hoping it's a short one. Okay. Had to take a little drink break there. And now getting back to it. So yes, Snow White has just fallen dead, strangled by a bit of lace color. That's embarrassing. In the evening, the 7 dwarfs returned. And I need not say how grieved they were to see their faithful Snow White stretched upon the ground, motionless, as if she were quite dead. Ah. 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 Okay, I'm done.
Yes, the next voice is, do you do Guinness's Obi-Wan? I don't know who played Obi-Wan.
Guinness is who I was trying to do last time I did Obi-Wan. No,
Okay.
didn't sound like him.
I didn't know who. I assume you. From the vague memory I have of Obi-Wan Kenobi from the movies, sounded just like him. But I didn't know the actor because I don't really follow the movies. I know I'm the oddball in my family.
Sinner. Yeah, next. Since I already did him.
Oh, you already did him. Okay.
Yes.
But you sure? Edgar from the. No, I'm looking at the wrong page. I'm sorry. That was from last stream. Harley Quinn.
However, they lifted her up, and when they found her, and then they found what was the matter. They cut the lace, and in a little time she began to breathe, and soon came to life again. Then they said, the old woman was the queen herself. Take care another time, and let no one in when we are away. When the queen got home, she went straight to the mirror and spoke to it as usual, but to her great surprise, it still said, Thou, queen, art the fairest in all the land, but over the hills in the greenwood shade, where the 7 dwarfs their dwelling have made, there Snow White is hiding her head, and she is lovelier far, O queen, than thee. Sorry, Puddin'.
Next.
Bobby Wobbly.
Oh, Lord. Then the blood ran cold in her heart with spite and malice to see that Snow White still lived, and she dressed herself up again in a disguise, but very different from the one she wore before, and took with her a poisoned comb. When she reached the dwarf's cottage, she knocked at the door and cried, Fine wares to sell! Do you like bubbles? Next.
William Shatner's Two-Face.
I actually just revisited that movie the other day. But Snow White said, I dare not let anyone in. Then the queen said, I only look at my beautiful combs, and gave her the poisoned one. And it looked so pretty that she took it up and put it into her hair to try it. But the moment it touched her... But the moment it touched her head, the poison was so powerful that she fell down senseless. There you may lie, said the queen, and went her way. But by good luck the dwarves returned very early that evening, and when they saw Snow White lying on the ground, they thought what had happened, and soon found the poisoned comb. When they took it away, she recovered, and told them all that had passed, and they warned her once more to not open the door to anyone. Snow White's kind of a dumbass, isn't she?
Since you're on this story, do your version of Snow White.
Oh, God.
Meantime, the queen went home to her mirror and trembled with rage when she received exactly the same answer as before. And she said, "Snow White shall die if it costs me my life." So she secretly went into a chamber and prepared a poisoned apple. The outside looked very rosy and tempting, but whoever tasted it was sure to die. Next.
Starfire from Teen Titans.
Pass.
Jeremy Irons, Alfred.
More or less Scar, but I'll see what I can do here.
Well, there's plenty more to choose from if you've already done that.
That's
How about Alf?
Then she dressed herself up as a peasant's wife and traveled over the hills to the dwarf's cottage and knocked at the door. But Snow White put her head out the window and said, "I dare not let anyone in, for the dwarfs had told me not." "Do as you please," said the old woman, "but at any rate take this pretty apple. I will make you a present of it." "No," said Snow White, "I dare not take it." "You silly girl," answered the other, "what are you afraid of? Do you think it's poisoned?" Really? Come.
I liked Alf back in the day.
Do you eat one Come, do you eat one part and I will eat the other. Yeah, very slick. Next.
Notification, dismiss. Psycho Sam?
Pass.
Mumra?
Pass.
Yzma.
Now the apple was so prepared that one side was good, though the other side was poisoned. Then Snow White was very much tempted to taste, for the apple looked exceedingly nice. And when she saw the old woman eat, she could refrain no longer. But she had scarcely put the piece into her mouth when she fell down dead upon the ground. "This time nothing will save thee," said the queen, and she went home to her mirror, and at last it said, "Thou, queen, art the fairest of all the fair."
Hey, my Raven sister's in the chat. Hello, Raven.
Hello, Raven. Other
Raven
Raven.
McBain. Not Little Raven.
Oh, so many Ravens on my channel. Next voice.
Kronk.
And then her envious heart was glad, and was happy as such a heart could be. When evening came, the dwarfs returned home. They found Snow White lying on the ground, no breath passed her lips, and when they were afraid that she was quite dead, they lifted her up and combed her hair and washed her face with wine and water. Okay. But all was in vain, for the little girl seemed quite dead. Next.
I'm sorry, I'm hurriedly making a snack because my kid is hungry.
Uh-oh.
And they want to dash by here and grab some food before, they go back out and play a little while waiting for me. So I'm sorry if I seem just a little bit distracted.
It's okay.
The next one is Lucas the Spider.
Oh my god.
Too precious.
Guys, powers that be, we need a Lucas movie. Quick, before he grows up and loses that...
No, because we have to get that kid to voice him. There is no other Lucas.
Recasting him would be incredibly difficult.
Just can't be done.
So they laid her down upon a bier, and all seven watched and bewailed her 3 whole days. And when they proposed to bury her, but her cheeks were still rosy, and her face looked just as it did while she was alive. So they said, "We will never bury her in the cold ground." And they made a coffin of glass so that they might still look at her because she was still their friend. And wrote her name on it in golden letters, and that she was a king's daughter.
Next.
I love Lucas.
We all love Lucas.
This was an interesting request. I've never heard you do him, but I bet you can if you are familiar enough to know him. Bernie
Yes.
Sanders.
We've done him, actually.
Oh, have you? I can remember. I was going to tell you, because you're not political. I am political. He's not political. I was going to tell you, think old New York Jew.
Oh yes, he is very old New York
loud.
Jew. Actually, you did point that out to me when I did him the first time. You said that I was spot on, except I need to be a little louder.
Yells everything.
He yells everything. Okay, I will do that then. Let's see, where was I? Oh, yes. And the coffin was placed upon the hill, and one of the dwarfs always sat by it and watched. And the birds of the air came too, and bemoaned Snow White. First of all came an owl, and then a raven. Hey, this story's talking about you now! But at last came a dove. And thus Snow White lay for a long, long time, and still only looked as though she were asleep. For she was even now as white as snow, and as red as blood, and as black as ebony. If you make up your mind, lady, what are you supposed to be?
That's really good.
Thank you. At last a prince called and came at the dwarf's house, and she saw Snow White, and read what was written in gold letters. Then he offered the dwarves money, and earnestly prayed them to let them take her away.
Silence your cell phone.
Hello, yes.
Oh, is this Bobsheaux?
This is Bobsheaux, yes, who is this?
This is your mother.
Hello, it's my old dear mother, how are you doing? I'm doing well. You actually caught me in the middle of one of my streams. What's up?
I'm wondering if you were still in it or if you were off the phone yet. I just wanted to say your mom show loves you, and I will call you later when you are not with all of your little friends.
And
He's just like his mom, by the way. She's amazing.
my mother suddenly turned Jewish because that's what I'm sounding like on the phone.
She probably would approve of Bernie.
That only makes too much sense.
So listen, you and your little friends, you have a good time, maybe nosh a little, and I'll talk to you later.
Alright, will do. I love you.
I love you too, son. Oh, do I hear Raven?
Hi!
You do hear Raven. She always helps me with my streams.
I understand. Tell Raven I'm sending her her love, although if she's listening, she knows, Raven, I am sending you my love.
Did you hear that, baby?
I did not.
She says that she is sending you her love. Okay,
I'm sending her mine as well.
and she is sending you hers back.
I hear that. All right. Well, you have an absolutely wonderful afternoon, and hello out there to all the little Bobsheaux-ettes.
Oh my god, it's so cute!
Okay, I'll talk to you later, Mom.
He literally gets it from his mom. She is so funny. And she has a background in theater, doesn't she?
She does, and she was actually going to go into stand-up for a bit.
She should have.
Yeah, she would have been great at it. Let's see, where was I? I lost my spot. Ah, yes, here we are.
So,
Mom show, yes.
mom show, perfect.
That's what she called herself on the phone, so yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, makes sense. I think
Good
that's enough,
option.
Bernie. What next?
Right. Zordon?
Oh, jeez.
I don't know.
Let's see.
But the dwarfs said, "We will not part with her for all the gold in the world." At last, however, they had pity on him and gave him the coffin. But the moment he lifted it up to carry it home with him,
He was just going to take the whole coffin with him.
the piece of apple fell from between her lips, and Snow White awoke and said, "Where am I?" And the prince answered, "Thou art safe with me." The big giant digital head.
Next.
Next is Brent.
I think we got about 2 voices left in this, so let's make them good. We got Brent, and who was going to be the final one?
Oh.
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 Oh. then we got 2 hours to the next stream. Hooray!
I really can't complain. I have to pee so bad.
I have to pee. It's perfect.
Okay, I found one that I want.
What's that?
Don't do Brent. Do Brent next time.
Do Brent next time? Okay.
Yes. So your next voice.
Next two
will
voices.
The next two voices will be Christopher Walken and Steve Irwin.
Oh, God. Let's see. Then he told her all that had happened, because of course he knew. And he said, I love you better than all the world. Come with me to my father's palace, and you shall be my wife. Wow. And Snow White consented, and went home with the prince, and everything was prepared with great pomp and splendor for the wedding. To the feast was invited, among the rest, Snow White's old enemy, the queen, and as she was dressing herself in fine, rich clothes, she looked to the mirror and said... Moving on to Steve Irwin now. Right, mirror, mirror, tell me true. Of all the ladies in the land, who is the fairest? Tell me who. And the mirror answered, Thou, lady, art loveliest here, and I ween, but lovelier far is the new-made queen. Crikey! When she heard this, she started with rage, but her envy and curiosity were so great that she could not help setting out to see the bride. And when she arrived, she saw that it was no other than Snow White, who, as she thought, had been dead a long time. She choked with passion and fell ill and died. Now Snow White and the prince lived and reigned happily over that land many, many years. And then she shoved her thumb right up the queen's butthole.
Oh my god. No.
Yes.
Mommy! Mama!
Speaking of calls for and from Mother.
Hey. Hello, I'm live streaming. Is everything okay? I can call you in just a few minutes. Oh, good. Okay, I love you too, Puddin' Pop. Bye-bye.
Speaking of the puddingy devil.
And
But yes.
The boy is on his way to grab some peanut butter crackers so we can finish up the stream.
Indeed. But yes, that was Snow White from Grimm's Fairy Tales. Be sure to tune in for our next stream in about 2 hours, 10 minutes. Such a break we have, I know.
I know. We had to do it later today because I had an emergency manicure appointment.
Yes, so emergency. And we will continue on with The Wizard of Oz, and then we shall delve more into Grimm. So be sure to come in for that. And this was a lot of fun. Hope you guys had fun too. Closing remarks from Milady?
Just a second. I'm handing off peanut butter crackers.
Uh-oh.
And, a drink.
We'll wait for her to say her goodbyes.
You're welcome. I'll be out in just a little bit.
I'll just be enjoying my chippiness back here. Ooh. I am God of all creation.
Get a drink before you start eating those or you're going to choke. Sorry, guys. Had to take a moment to be mom.
Quite alright.
Yes. So, we will be back at 5 p.m. Pacific time
Yes.
with a fresh list. Well, actually, you will make the list. So, chances are there's going to be a lot of different voices.
Yes.
So it's a good idea, and there'll be different stories, of course.
And as always, let's make them good, folks. I love doing these. They're so much fun.
They really are.
Mhm.
And again, the videos will be available for everybody to watch on Saturday.
Yes. Yes, indeed. All right, so I will see you guys in a couple of hours.
Yep. See you then. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Stop recording. And it looks like we're still recording, I guess, maybe. Oh wait, stop streaming, that was what I was supposed to do. Oops, sorry.